Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Thanks for listening to our ads. We were supposed to start this podcast, I think, an hour ago.
Yeah, well...
And now we don't really have much of it left. But to you, I say, salute. Do we have any segments, Ali, or are we just going to continue talking?
Yeah, we're going to...
It's between the ad.
No, we're going to read from the... We've got the Old Testament today.
That's right. Well, it's one of the interpretations of the Old Testament.
It's the original Old Testament.
We have the good book.
Written by God
We have
himself.
the good book.
Are we going to have to start our own sectarian groups, are we? Because that is not
I'm still stuck on Stiflerdom.
Oh, yeah.
The Church of Stifler.
Yes.
Did I ever tell you...
The old ways, the paganism of this pod.
In bro we
That's where it all started.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that Jordan and I actually met the guy who made that Stifler meme religion?
No way.
Yeah, at a random party.
Damn. I thought Jordan made it up.
Go on, because I don't remember this either.
No, this was when you were performing in Melbourne, and we went to like a friend of mine's house party. Anyways, doesn't matter. Look, we met the guy. He didn't realize it was me, and then he was just like, "Wait, are you Ollie from the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's Jordan." And he was like, "Wait, is that Friendlyjordies?"
I love that reaction. Yes.
And then he was like, "I'm a massive fan. I was the one who sent that meme."
Yes.
Can we let's do.
Same one every time. Did you know I watch your videos?
And then you just go like,
I could have guessed.
yes. You should say it like that.
I'm at usual, like at a loss for words. What are we talking about here? Why am I doing it in a long yes?
Just because that really should, doesn't that explain the depravity of you being like, okay.
Yes. You know what, actually, before we go on to this, my girlfriend recently had, I think, the greatest sound ever for when your mum says something embarrassing about you to somebody that's just there to introduce you. So, for instance, with Ali, just being like, Ali does a little radio show. How much does this sum up the general vibe of how you're going to respond to that person? We'll do it in the camera. Hey.
Is that from Salad Fingers?
Well, you don't have that feeling?
No, that's.
I always have that. Just this like shriveling little. It's devolved into a jellyfish. Please.
Mine's more just sort of like,
mercy.
kill me.
Wait.
Mine's more like that.
I think it's the same sound,
No,
though.
it's not the
Isn't it the same? But how do you feel when your mum introduces?
I think it's like
you're
a
quivery.
a symptom
and it's the same sound.
Yeah, and I'll pay that. You're right.
Right.
No, that's what I get.
Just like the
Well,
moon
that's
landing.
pretty 12-year-old of you, Ali. I've got to say, Mom. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, that's how I feel. What do you mean?
Mom.
It gets the little kid inside.
Does it?
I think we're all right here.
I am perpetually.
No, I just
12
feel
years old.
really uncomfortable.
Really?
Like
what
I'm at a party filled with
Germans?
law students. That's the name. Like I feel like that my entire life.
Oh, really?
Just like extra formal for no reason.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that you get. So you're just like, pleased to meet your acquaintance.
Is that kind of if your mum's like, this is my son Jordan. Hey,
I had one of those yesterday.
Well, that's not how my mum usually introduces me. It's just like, this is Jordan. He's been very mean to me.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
If she's listening,
Very
or watching.
rude.
Dude, she's incredibly
That is,
sweet.
I really like how mums think that is an insult.
He's very.
You're rude, Ali.
Dude, it is an insult to most people, but someone that makes a living out of it, it's like, oh, dude, I'm sharpening my skills. Yeah.
So do you feel
That's pretty much every time I talk to my grandma about my profession.
what? What is she?
Why do you have to be so mean, Scott?
That's so sweet.
Because
And then I'll just say like all the reasons she'll be like, but he's the prime minister.
Oh, that's such a respectable quality.
I know,
though.
it's so sweet.
For her, like a prime minister is like, you can't just fuck around with
yeah,
them.
exactly. Exactly. That guy does the speech and answer.
But I had that exact thing yesterday.
time.
Yesterday was Eid, Mishlove.
Oh,
Are you aware of
In
this?
case you didn't know.
Bust out the hijab. It's BuzzFeed Muslim News.
Dude, can we? Come on. All right, in celebration of BuzzFeed coming out of Australia, we're bringing it back. That's the new segment. We are making that your segment of the political segment of this pod from now on. BuzzFeed Muslim.
Jesus.
BuzzFeed Muslim.
I am not on this train.
Thank you for existing.
Oh God. So did you? Is that when you fast?
You're a real
No, that's
treasure.
when,
you know that.
That's when, like,
Don't
so
you
you
forget.
fast for 30 days, and then the last, like, that's the festival after your fasting is
But
done.
have you been doing the fast?
Christ,
You know, weirdly,
no.
I actually was doing, like, last week I started doing intermittent fasting.
That's good
And then
for
I
you.
realized.
That has nothing to do with religion.
Yeah,
that has
but
to
then,
do
like-
with you watching that Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Hey, that's Joe Rogan's religion.
I know
my
he is,
God.
isn't he?
I wasn't. It's killing two birds
in
with one
college
stone.
and now a druggo.
Sorry.
It's
anyways.
killing two birds with one stone. Look, I
didn't know
completely
it was
forgot it was Ramadan. And then, like, I was fasting. I was like, fuck, I just realized I'm doing a religious duty today.
Dang.
Anyway, so, like, yesterday was Eid, so
my
we had a
God
few
has to
people
like
over.
Go on.
And my one of my dad's cousins was like, young man, sit next to me. Which is always cute for, like, your next hour is going to be shit. So,
I know. I know.
particularly when they say young man.
I know.
I really know this about Pakistan now.
what young man?
I don't know. It's just like my dad's friends. For some reason, this is normal there. Just being like, that shit, you and I are going out for dinner, and I'm just going to relay all my stories. I'm basically Grandpa Simpson, except for, like, nothing I say is a joke.
Yeah.
Oh,
You have to sit through that shit, and there's no way of saying no.
That's tough.
How much better is it just being atomized in Australia and just like getting some sort of either anxiety or depression in your 20s by having no human contact at all?
That's
I
better.
prefer that.
That's better. In a
Than
way,
being bored.
like, well, it's sad because all of my grandparents are gone except my lovely grandma. But my grandma's chill with that kind of stuff, so I haven't really had to actually go through. I've never really had that sort of thing of like full on like shit down, young man. I'm going to tell you what life's all about. You know what I mean?
No, it wasn't about, like, telling me what life's all about. He was saying that your father has informed me that you are into the media business.
Oh, here we go.
And, like, that could mean so much. It could mean you're fucking Carrie Packer. It could mean that you
Good
have
start. It's the worst start ever. You must have just been like sunk into your.
No, but,
chair.
like, my problem
I
was, like,
imagine that he thinks that he's just got this like Ali's PC corner in PC magazine.
I know. No. He
Dude, let's
reckons,
be honest. He should.
No, dude.
You should have
he
that
reckons
corner.
that you have like a Twitch stream that's just sort of like. Today we're going to be talking about the fiscal advantage of splitting your super loans into not 2 but 3 accounts, and then like the racist it gets is sometimes it's like, we can have this young lady to sit. Oh, sorry, ma'am, to sit with us, and then just kind of being like, ma'am, I'm really sorry. Let's cut.
Or can you see him on that Islamic radio channel that seems to come in and out of being on air? Can you see him there just being like, "Has in the 38th verse of the Quran, like it says, like there's like 19,000 angels that come down, bros. Can you imagine that shit? 19,000.
Could you ever do that?
I could. Dude, I have never spoken about this on the pod because this is not the crowd. But I actually, I read up on, Islamic history a lot. I kind of know those stories. And it was
history would-
19,000 angels.
Wasn't it?
I think you're talking about one of the... Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not
But
gonna go
anyway,
into that.
we keep.
But,
bringing
so
it
my
up.
uncle...
So he goes, "You're in the media."
So he's like, no, he doesn't say you're in the media. He says, so I've been informed by your father that you are in the media business. And
It's just a script.
so I but my dilemma over here is, look, so I don't have a problem explaining to him what I do, but I know that there is no way he will understand what I do at all because he doesn't know what a podcast is, he doesn't know what Twitch is,
Well, I don't
he doesn't
either.
know what streaming is, and I'll tell you,
Probably
if you
doesn't
think
know
I'm
what
being rough on him, I told him that. So with my friends, I do a show every Tuesday night, 7:30, and his question his response was, "Is that for the DVD player?"
Yeah,
Something to that
finally,
effect.
a kindred spirit.
Because he I was like, "Oh
Finally.
no, it's on Twitch." I was just like, "It's online. You know where you watch the
online.
Pakistani soap operas? That's where it's on." And he was like, "Oh, so on
Ali,
YouTube."
you are in charge of my merch, and I think you know what we need.
Oh,
We need a Friendly Jimmy's DVD too hot for Twitch.
I thought you were gonna have a hoodie with that guy's your dad's friend's face in a full high def, being like, "Is that on the DVD?" Just sell that. I would buy that.
Or you press it, and then he just starts moving around, being like, "Oh, spin me right round, baby, right round like a DVD, please, please,
Muslim.
spanked by the Bible, baby, right round."
Like
You
a
get that merch?
DVD, right round.
All right, well that'll be the opening credits title on the DVD player.
He still didn't finish the story.
Because
It's so.
he did say something profound though, which I was like, you know what? Sometimes someone that doesn't know anything about what you do will say things that it's out of the box. You never thought of.
Was it this? Dude, Mark Wahlberg isn't that bad. He's underrated.
Fuck, he's a psychic. Very close.
Here's my wisdom.
They should do a cop show. Him and Chris Tucker.
It's a cool idea. Go on.
So then he asked me, okay, so what do you talk about? So I said, well, I'm not going to get into like what we talk about in the podcast
Because that's a
it's
dumb
too, it's yeah. So I told him, well, I just released a video recently on the Indian caste system for my YouTube channel. And his response was, well, who's going to watch that?
Why?
Because he's assuming that it's for Australian audience.
Yeah.
And he's right.
He's right.
No one watched it.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's a profound statement there.
Damn, so he's like
Yeah.
he's basically a PR dude.
Yeah. And then he was and then he was like,
So
okay.
he was basically saying, you know what I think you should do? You should make your YouTube channel just LA reviewing pies from around Australia.
I'd watch
He's
it.
the one that says the best pies on the planet. Really the best one on the planet?
yeah. Mrs. Max.
No, well, and then so he asked me.
Just
so,
rates them all out of 5, Mrs. Max out of 5.
You're just writing a script live right now. Go on.
So he asked me what else you talk about, and I was like, oh, and I released another video about like Australian and Chinese relations, and he was like, do you still have whiskey in that closet? And I was like, oh yeah, I do. And then I got him whiskey, and that was the end of the conversation.
Dude, this guy's a boss. This guy's a boss.
He is also a drunk. He had finished an entire bottle.
Oh my god. Is there any whiskey in that closet? Oh my god.
At least he earned it for once. He was basically a consultant to you.
Yeah.
Dude, I was happy because
Yeah,
that means I don't
you
have to
should be.
I don't have to keep talking to him about it.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, look, I actually, first of all, thank you for that story, Alex. And on top of that, you
Great
should
cunt.
really heed his advice. He knows more about YouTube than I do.
Yeah, no, he was right. And like after I realized that like my view count was way better when I started talking about Australia.
Paying attention to him.
Paying attention to him. But you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna talk about my next one's about Australia. So hopefully I build up my audience so that you can watch the boring stuff like Indian caste.
Nah, it's not, dude.
I don't know, dude. You should
keep
just do
doing it.
some booze reviews. They do well.
All you gotta do, yeah. Just even it out with like politics to like booze reviews. Plus, you like booze, man. You drink.
Yeah, not nearly as much. First of all, I can't drink nearly as much as you guys can. This was the thing that really annoyed me. Jordan does not drink. He may as well be a Muslim, right? But when he does drink, which is usually with you, he can
Somehow.
Good friend.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
Great influence.
Yeah, I know.
Go on.
he can drink
I gave you
so
a view
much.
to your career, and you made me an outcome.
He can drink
He can hold his own.
way more than I ever can. I'm
Is that
literally
really true? I thought.
3 beers, I am drunk. I am
Wow.
not kidding. Because as un-PC as this sounds, I feel like because my people haven't had
probably
drinks
true.
in so long, I am not capable of handling that.
Yeah, he's.
Well, that's one way.
I
of
am
putting it, but
genetically
my
inferior.
hypothesis, though, dude, I just think you're a pansy.
No, Jordan, I get
It's
drunk
man, it's the same
really
thing
quickly.
it's the same thing with the chili. I'm sorry, I'm never going to get over this in my entire life.
Like my chili tolerance
You ate
is
chili for breakfast, and now you're having a cry about it.
no. Look, first of all, that was you have no idea what kind of chili that shit was. It was the hottest sauce in the
know.
world.
Oh,
Just
sorry. I thought you meant
filled
Melbourne.
inside of a dumpling. You never had it, so you don't know what that shit was. Secondly, my spice tolerance is okay. I can match up with most people. My
All right, well-
booze tolerance is nowhere near it.
We'll have to look into this with the Twitch gods.
You-
But if it's legal for us to rub chili on our gooches and see which one.
by the producer's faces.
like-
It's a solid yes. Yeah, it's a yeah.
Yes, yes.
You don't even have to show the gooch. You can just see how
You want to show the gooch.
And your dad's business associate friend is judging. Okay, he's doing it. Oh, goodness. Have you guys got any whiskey? God, that's bad. Now, this is something people will want to know. Guys, I don't know. Have you seen Jackass? It's so funny, man.
But like, this low alcohol tolerance, usually it's an advantage. You're like, your bank balance stays intact.
True.
You don't have to drink that much, but there is one significant disadvantage
What's
that
that?
none of you would be aware of. It can only happen when you go through it. Dude, so like if you go on a date, the best date is going to the pub and having a drink and talking about shit. I mean, look, that's the way to get to know someone, like a
Yeah.
first date.
Yeah.
The problem is like after 3 drinks, I can't have any more. And whoever I'm with is like just getting into it.
Dude, that's
and I have to tell them, I am drunk right now. You can have it, but I'll have Coke. And then they go like, no, I'm not gonna drink if you're not drinking. And then like
and then you feel bad and
it just kills it. And they're like also once like they get tipsy, whatever. I'm not gonna go too into it, but it's
Man,
It's
there's
a
no
disadvantage.
need for you to write a biography. It already exists. It's just called a series of unfortunate events. That's your entire life.
you
It's
know
just
what?
going into
Don't-
really awkward situations with women and them just being like, do you want to have sex with me?
you don't have a penis, do you?
Okay, let's just keep this date going for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
so I can tell my French, God, a hand job.
Dude, but you don't have to worry about that.
a handshake.
Dude, dating apps exist, so you can just bypass all the like.
That's how I meet them.
But on dating apps, there's nothing where it's just like a lot of it's just sort of like 3:30 p.m. my house. Bring a stick of butter, and then you're just like ding dong.
What? No.
Arlie, Miss, speaking of...
What kind of dates are you going? They ask you to bring butter to their house?
No, I haven't. I don't know. I'm just saying like you can bypass the pub. I would assume.
No, the pub is actually a good place to get to know someone. Because
Why?
it puts you in a comfortable atmosphere. And also like I'm kind of confident enough to be able to like hold a conversation without booze. But sometimes I understand the other person might not. They might feel a little self-conscious. It might not have been a regular thing for them like it was for me back in the day. So a bit of booze helps them out. And there's nothing wrong with
That
it.
and also Arlie's a gambling addict and he's addicted to watching the Greyhounds.
Hit the Bible. 'Cause
All
we
right.
haven't done one
Oh, yeah,
segment.
sorry.
We need to get into this,
All right.
and we can go on.
Whoa. That's pretty heavy.
Readings from.
All right. I'll give you a choose your own adventure on Koshi's 11-step money plan. Okay, there's a lot of filler at the beginning. All right.
I mean, he had a word
habits-
requirement, so.
The habits of rich people. 1, they create wealth. Flick. That's what he said. Why doesn't he do audiobooks?
Because his voice is.
This entire book is like shit that does not need to be said.
Stating the obvious.
Flick through Australia's AFR rich list or young rich list on any given year and you'll notice the majority of entrants are in the business of wealth creation. That's a business, okay. Maybe they started their own business, they had an amazing idea, or at the pinnacle of their career. The lesson here is that people have people who have given it a go, as a result, are able to generate their own income and assets to grow their overall wealth. You know what, actually?
Keep talking. I'm learning.
Yeah, that is actually really good advice.
Yeah.
What?
Invest.
Everybody's in the rat race.
Are you saying the
Why
Old
don't you
Test-
create the maze, baby?
Damn. I don't know what that means, but do you mean to invest? I assume you mean invest. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, people.
Yeah, that's
want
what I
to
mean.
invest.
Yeah, go into Telstra.
Invest. Help me invest. Get me an investment, please. I'll just give you money.
From where?
I love that this Twitch is basically just teaching me some basic life lessons. How do you set up a bank account?
Dude, maybe we shouldn't shit on this book. This book is meant for Miss Love. Mislav would gain so much from.
I'm not going to lie.
I know,
Before
he
you
was just
started,
like, don't stop.
before you started reading it, I was just like, because I was just like, I need one of these books, and I was like, maybe this is the one for me. So maybe I'll read this. Maybe I'll read this one unironically. I think I will. I'm gonna have to. Can I borrow the Bible off you?
But I know that in your mind you will be reading in Koshi's voice.
Yeah, I know.
So there will just be moments where you'll be sitting on the train with this as the outline, like,
It's a comedy and it's a book about finance. You know. Was that it?
dude.
Yeah, that's the book.
Like I'm looking at him right now. That's basically Groucho Marx, right? Like that is one of the greatest comedians of all time. That's what they look like.
It's true.
Oh, you know, Jordan, you should actually be bold. Bold people are funnier.
That's true as well.
It is.
And this book really should be called "No, I'm Not on That ABC Show About Inventions."
Dude, and how much is he just thinking like, I saved some money on this chair because I found it in a dumpster.
I know. I'm not wearing any undies.
All right. Well,
All right. Well,
Are we
we've
doing
learned
another
enough
one or
of
moving on?
One verse at a
Yeah,
year.
one
Do you want
verse.
one more?
Let's move on.
yeah, let's move on. Let's move
Because I'll read it in my own time.
Because Miss Love is now getting offended at the trivialization of this great literature.
Should we just jump into...
Big Australia.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna bring out.
And also, real
Fuck,
quickly,
it
guys,
sucks that I'm just gonna-
we're smashing these today.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
I think we're like an hour and a half into this broadcast.
We're going further. Go on, though.
I'm gonna basically review my entire video, which is gonna release soon.
Oh,
But
no.
Screw it. Holsworthy Live.
Don't
Check
do
it
it.
out still.
I object. I want to wait till Holsworthy Lives comes out. I'm not sitting here letting you jeopardize your content.
All the
Twitch right now. What do you think?
What?
I don't know. He's
just saying.
trivializing my subscriber count. That's what's happening
That's all
over
I'm
here.
doing. Get into it.
So
I didn't say
okay,
stop.
here's my point. Most people hate the idea of a big Australia. First of all, let's talk about the advantages. We'll get into disadvantages, which Jordan will
Cover.
talk in it. But like, okay,
Gusto.
First of all, what that gives us, a big Australia. Look, either way, the first point is, you want it or not, it's going to happen anyways. Like, it's not going to be as big as like Kevin Rudd might have wanted it, but by 2050, we're estimated to have a population of around 32 to 35 million. If you don't do anything right now, that's where we're going to possibly hit at. Unless, there's some serious, like, one nation comes into power and they completely, just the way things are going, irrespective, Labour or Liberal, that's where we're going to end up with. So this is the problem. These are the advantages that you get from a bigger country. First of all, infrastructure cost is going to dramatically reduce. The reason why like roads and train lines between like Darwin to like, I don't know, wherever in that sort of territory is expensive is because there's so many people that are going to be eventually on it. The more people you have, the economies of scale suggest that everything is going to be cheaper. That's why America can build a lot more infrastructure than we can. They have things like your delivery cost. It's a hassle for Australia Post to deliver something like, because I do merchandise for Jordan. So it's the delivery costs are insane. It's off the hook. And it's because it costs a lot of money for me to send a bullshit shirt like...
Yeah.
On sale now. Take it off.
On sale, whatever camera.
Yes.
It
Dance.
takes a lot of money.
He was thinking about that all day.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. It happened. So it takes a
That was
lot
the
of
spur
money
the moment. Damn.
to get like a shirt to, I don't know, somewhere in South Australia. It's because it costs a lot of money. Like there's only a very handful of people that live in those areas. So, but if there were a lot more people living there, then everything would be cheaper. Secondly, we wouldn't have to depend on international markets all the time. Australia has a big economic problem that we're too dependent on only a certain section of our economy, which is commodity export. It's kind of like just look at Saudi Arabia and what they're going through now. Oil prices crash, their economy crashes. These are the same people that could literally buy whatever the hell they wanted, and now they're in a position where they're like, shit, we're looking at like being poor after 20 years. Things change. Maybe there isn't like coal, for instance. countries are not going to buy coal the same way that they were, because with alternative energy, it's going to be the demand is going to reduce. So we're vulnerable right now. What we don't have is a big enough economy or a big enough consumer base to just depend on our own economy. Like if no one else is going to buy our shit, there's enough people within our own country that will buy it. That's why like countries like China and the US, even England, UK are very safe. They have a strong enough consumer base to depend on. So that's one of the advantages that you get. Actually, in a way, a big Australia means that you will truly be sovereign because you're not too obsessed with what. And in this post-COVID economy, we should probably look into like being more self-reliant. Thirdly, it can spur economic growth immensely, irrespective of like that advantage of consumer base. That's the way we can get out of, because with more people, there's more people that are providing. Look, boomers are eventually moving towards a point where they're going to rely on pensions. There's not enough base to be able to provide that. And they deserve it. They did it for their own, the golden generation. There's a big number of them that are going to depend on a fewer people now, because it just turns out that our generation is smaller in number. So that's what, again, a advantage. The problem is no one wants people on top of each other. The way that we have done our infrastructure in Australia is we haven't been able to match with our population growth. Like we just, like, and I'll talk about like Sydney. We just keep spreading out into the western suburbs. We'll eventually reach a point where like it takes 3 hours for you to get to your work. And so you don't want that. But what you really want is people moving into regional areas. That would be amazing. We would literally offer immigration if people were willing to do it. Problem is, once they end up finishing their whatever time period that they have to, they move to Sydney. There's a few ways to do it. One is a method that I don't agree with, but I'll just put it out there. It's kind of like what the UAE has, that there's a certain amount of people that will never become citizens. They're not eligible for citizenship. It's not that they're exploited. They can, they work here, they have all the sort of benefits, but they can never, not benefits of like unemployment, but they can never be citizens. That gives a cushion that if things go south and we don't kind of want them, we can always tell them to fuck off. I don't necessarily agree with that because it's just a two-tier system. But here's another one. When Deng Xiaoping came into power in China, he had this problem of how does he make sure, he wanted to open up the economy, but his system was such that it wasn't possible. So he set up something called special economic zones, where he said, in these particular areas, Chinese laws of like, taxing a lot or whatever don't apply. So you basically pay zero taxes here or very little taxes, and you can invest as much as possible. Those free economic zones now are world centers for manufacturing. They're huge economic areas. Australia could look into something like that. What if we said that this particular regional town in South Australia, if you set up your shop over there, you have to pay zero taxes. And if as soon as like you get out of there, then you have to pay taxes.
Isn't that a very conservative, like a liberal idea?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but I think it's not a bad idea. I mean,
No.
It is a liberal idea because it's moving towards a more free economy. But I'm saying this is one way you can incentivize investment into areas that no one is looking into.
Well, here's another one. Why don't you just force them to live there?
Well, that's like a problem. So you can't. Okay, so technically,
I like the idea of you're not a citizen, but you can work there.
I know you do, but the problem with that is that you can never be a citizen because our constitution like guarantees certain rights, and that's also movement. You can't. So you would basically never have to make them citizens.
Yeah, but I reckon that this is going to be one of those rare instances where if you take that to a referendum, people are voting yes. You will be able to change that.
I think you'd be surprised. People would not vote for. Maybe I'm wrong, but like
that is an interesting.
Equality
idea.
is a very entrenched part of like. And you're going to love this, Anglo-Saxon culture. I think that sort of, it's not, I don't think they'll be like okay with having second-tier citizens in their own country, even if that means that they're not part of it. But again, you can look into that.
Well,
I'm
don't
not
know. Maybe we
completely
can soften the
opposed
deal on the referendum where you can get everyone who is an actual citizen gets to wear those sweet long flowing shirts that Saudi Arabian dudes wear
And they get a
to
free.
indicate that they are citizens.
What did you? I don't because I wasn't here. What was the public perception and opinion of the Peter Costello baby bonus scheme?
Probably awesome if you had a baby. Other than that, nobody would care or notice. But it was, it was objectively stupid policy. But I don't.
But
know
why do you think it
anybody-
was stupid?
Because it didn't work.
That's-
the first
yeah,
point.
okay.
It was middle class welfare, handing things out to people that are either going to have babies or they're not going to have babies. Didn't incentivize people. Nobody, unless you are really dumb, as in all your male children have rat's tails, is going to be like, fuck yeah, $500. That's a reason to bring someone into the world.
Well, there's worse.
Dude, it's not like
Yeah,
but
it's just really like-
but it would help.
Isn't in the money plan. If you have a baby,
Try for the baby bonus, but be quick.
I understand that, but that's gonna ease a lot of tensions amongst Australians that don't want to, be surrounded by people from different countries.
Well, what's your rebuttal? Rebut, damn it.
oh,
Unless
I can.
you done?
I can't remember the exact points of
Yeah.
it, but I'll just put these out. First of all, the ecological strain. Australia doesn't have much water. You could obviously put desalination plants into it, but that has its own environmental problems. The second one is look at all the countries that have a lot of people in them. They all suck. I don't want to live in any of them.
Such as, or the states.
Let's just go through it. Yeah, the United States. Oh, well, that's a huge step up from Australia. Like, slightly more burger change, but everybody in those burger chains is really scared of losing their jobs. And why is one of the reasons that they're so scared of losing their jobs? Is because there is just this ample population being like, I'll take it. I can wear the little burger sign. I can just do a little dance on the highway. Like, that's a huge problem of it. But then the other one is... when it comes to infrastructure and building it, yeah, you can build a lot of infrastructure. Technically, you can, but it's like America. I guess they build more infrastructure than we do. That's very true. But they also build worse infrastructure. And it depends on who's in government, which is also what happened in Australia. Because as soon as they doubled up the immigration in this country, the Liberals halved the amount of infrastructure spending. So you have the worst of both worlds. And so it's just this same argument where it comes into nuclear technology as well, right? Where it's just like, yeah, if there was all these sick regulations on it, nothing would happen. And then, the waste would just be properly disposed. And it's just like, yeah, that's all well and good, even though it's not. But, let's just assume that it all is good. That is assuming that the government of the day are not going to be corrupt and do all these little backhand deals with the people that they are, got them into power so that they can cut corners and profit off it.
Right.
The reason that they doubled the immigration in this country is because Coles exists. That's the only reason there are all these people in this country, is basically so the Coles CEO at the end of the year can go, there was growth in Coles Myer of 2%. Well, that's because the population grew by 2%. Yeah, but it was my idea to tell Scott Morrison to grow it. That is a huge... all that happens is they just get dumped in Western Sydney, which is exactly what's happened, or in northern Melbourne. They strain on the resources. You have all of these ethnic conflicts that are happening as a result of it as well. There's few resources that are put in there. Basically, you do get a second class or a second tier citizenship anyway. What's happening to Sydney now is it's just becoming ghettoized. The Western Sydney is
happening in
pretty
England.
much just like Mad Max with more people now. It's way worse than being in the eastern suburbs or the northern suburbs of Sydney where immigrants can't afford to live, right?
What they need to do is implement the stuff that Ali's talking about now to rectify.
No, I don't. I actually don't disagree with anything because
that's
look,
what
this
I'm
has
saying.
its
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. Because first of all,
I'm not
I mean,
disagreeing either.
the water point, 100% true. We are kind of a water insecure country, but I'm imagining at some point we'll get desalination as our main source of water, and
Yeah, but even if you
cheap,
get desalination, it's still there's huge problems that come with desalination. It's not just now it's not salt.
Yeah.
Where does the salt go?
no, what are the huge problems?
The salt.
Oh,
What happens to the salt? It just gets dumped back into the ocean and it just creates brine.
I thought desalination plants
But you'd probably like it. You know what we should do? Just put all the salt from it and just put this giant dump truck on it.
But Jordan, I know
I want some anchovies too.
I might sound like a liberal over here, but if that's your concern about the salt deposits being dumped into the ocean,
Sell it.
First of all, when I talk about big Australia, I'm not talking about hundreds of millions of people. it's going to be marginal compared to what the rest of the world is going to be doing. Like there's a lot of countries that are going to depend on it eventually, and they have much bigger populations.
Yeah, that's also.
So that's one of the things. So I'm just saying that.
But I'm just saying, look, desalination is not a magical cure-all. It's expensive. It comes with a huge environmental swaths of problems.
My assumption is that eventually it's going to be cheaper, and that's what all of the data suggests.
A lot cheaper. That's definitely
true. It's slowly becoming cheaper, and at one point it will just be the cheapest source. However, okay, the second. So I do agree with the water scarcity thing, but hopefully we can deal with that. And if we can't deal with that, then fuck the big people. We have problems as well. So, because we're dependent on rainfall. Like if the weather pattern changes, we're fucked. But okay, the second point of the carbon footprint. I mean, look, the carbon footprint, I'm assuming that eventually at some point we are moving towards a world where we're going to be emitting less amounts of carbon because we're going to be moving our energy sources. In that world, a few 10 million people extra in Australia, is it going to matter that much in the grand scheme of things? I don't think so.
No, but it depends if you are moving into it or not. And the Liberals most certainly aren't doing that.
That's the biggest...
It's the whole problem. All of this... Yes, Kevin Rudd is right that a big Australia will have advantages if Kevin Rudd's Prime Minister. But what have we learned from history? He gets 2 years max.
Yeah.
He says to the Americans, we're not going to send one Navy ship to your blockade in China. And they're just like, that's shit. Get rid of him.
Yeah,
And the worst case scenario is Europe. Europe is truly fucked. When you talk about ghettoization in Western Sydney, if you go to Paris or London or something, you
cops don't even go there now.
Yeah, it's not that they don't go there, but the problem is much worse over there.
There's
no-go
suburbs
zones
in Paris where police won't go.
Yeah, no-go zones.
And that is because of mass unfettered immigration that has not been properly it's just assimilated, right? It's just taking people from the third world, just plonking them in.
But it didn't happen.
Giving them any jobs or welfare or anything like that.
But it didn't happen in the U.S.
Huh?
The U.S. is one of the greatest examples of how
why
300 million.
How did the U.S. manage to bypass?
Well, this is a very theoretical. I have an opinion on this, and it's a very sort of theoretical opinion. But I think the source of European nationalism is different from the source of American nationalism. European nationalism is based on the fact that you're French, Britain. It's very ethnic based. American is not ethnic based. It's based on their constitution and their civic duties.
It's the opposite of it's kind of it's always that's from the nature of its inception. It's been
the nature, and they did it on purpose because they knew that they were eventually going to fall into that European trap because they were facing that problem way before because they had a huge country which had so much potential and they desperately needed people. They couldn't do like Peter Costello's baby boomers because that would have taken them centuries. So they asked migrations from all over the world. And how do you make sure that everyone that comes here believes in this singular cause? You don't make it ethnic. That's why things like African American or Hispanic American is so accepted over there. No one questions well, are you African or are you American?
American
because it doesn't matter. That's not what makes you American. What makes you American is believing in your civic duties and thinking that America is the best country in the world.
But wait a sec, surely the French, I mean, they were the forefathers of the French Revolution, separation of church and state, democracy, free elections,
always based on very strong French identity till today. And that is the problem why their immigrants have become ghettoized because they never actually made that effort of assimilating them because I don't think they knew how to. They didn't know how to get these Moroccans, Algerians, which were very recently their colonial subjects, to be by the way, you're French now, and also even though you're French, you can't live in my suburb because I want the real French people to live with me. That's why they have these ghettos because they were never integrated into society.
Wait, hang on, no, that's not true.
Okay,
America has ghettos.
Yeah, America,
but for a different reason.
They have.
Maybe they're not racially segregated.
No, they are. They are racially segregated.
Oh. And it's also just, it's the same problem as well. It's just as soon as you have too many people and you have too many people fighting over a number of resources, society just starts naturally separating.
But I think America.
So if you're going to do it, you do it the Saudi Arabia way of just being you are not Saudi Arabian.
Yeah,
you just have to do it like that. Yeah. Either that or you have a small Australia.
Right. Well, I think this is again my opinion. But I think American ghettos are not based on issues of national identity like the European ones.
Which one?
I think American ghettos are actually a result of inequality, extreme economic inequality.
But isn't that the same in Europe?
No, I
it's
don't
the same
think
in
so.
Australia.
I mean, it is. It's economic inequality is also a it is the case in Australia
It is
too.
in Australia.
But I think European ghettos there is an economic insecurity aspect of it, but it is actually genuine segregation of people because how you can't convince them to be French. Like it's hard for you because if all of your identity is based on this shared idea of history and race and your struggles, and France is a very old, historically proud country. It's hard to include them. We have those same problems in Australia too, but like because we have this, because we live in a colonial territory, it was somewhat easier for us to do. We're somewhere in between Europe and America.
That's true.
So we are at an advantage. It wouldn't be that difficult for us, but more so than America because.
But like, dude, my main issue with like, like immigration isn't this kind of thing of just being like, what's gonna happen to the Australian way of life? What is the Australian way of life? Like
Lamingtons.
rugby tickets being $12.
That time went a long time ago, mate.
I don't actually care about that. Like, it's honestly like an ecological thing, and it's also just this thing of like a strain on resources. And dude, I just think like it's exactly what happened when you went to Pakistan. We went into the office of the Minister of Finance, one of the smartest, most impressive people I've ever met in my life. He has all these equations, mathematical theories, meetings, all up on these walls. These walls that just look like he's just like an Einstein. For just like finance or whatever, right? And all of them are pointing, just like all of these problems that Pakistan has to deal with, and it's all just pointing to this one circle in the center that said too many people.
Right, really?
Yes. It's just as soon as you get to a point where there's too many people in the country, it's like the only word for it is it's not sustainable. That's all. Like, it's obvious when you go to Pakistan.
But Jordan,
the first thing that you think when you're in Pakistan is just being like, damn, like there's 4 or 5 people competing to take my luggage to the taxi.
Whoa.
That job is getting competed for.
But I recognize you. But like, even if you ask that minister, if you had the choice of making Pakistan instead of like a 210 million population to a 50 million population, would you agree? I bet you would have said no. Because
Why?
Because at the end of the day, he does believe that that's his asset, because that's his potential. His country is extremely poor at the moment, but if it does become somewhat affluent, they're a force to be reckoned with.
They're trying to depopulate Pakistan.
No, they're not trying to depopulate Pakistan. They're trying to like reduce
Population
the birth
control.
rate.
Yeah.
But like every country is kind of doing that. And those countries already have extremely high birth rates. We would love to have a birth rate like that because we want more people. Those countries have extremely high birth rates, but even theirs is reducing. The extremely high birth rate is actually in Africa now.
But dude, just answer me this, Ali. Do you prefer living in your house now or an apartment?
I would prefer living in a house.
Exactly.
Yeah. But Australia, you're comparing it to Pakistan. Compared to Japan. Japan's
the same thing. Everyone lives in apartments there.
They live in coffins,
It's just
right?
little coffins.
But like, Australia is huge, and if you want to live in Sydney,
huge,
you
it's
might
all
have
just
to live.
sand.
Yeah, it's like, that's true.
It's like, can you live on Bondi Beach? I suppose some Germans have proven that you can for a while.
That's true. So I'm not saying that you want to be a 330 million population like the US, because most of us is sand. But there's a lot more potential out there. And it's eventually going to help the country. It's going to make Australia a strong enough country in the international arena.
In certain circumstances, it could help. But I don't think that those circumstances are going to happen.
Yeah, look, if the Liberal Party is going to be in power and they're going to do exactly what they've done before, which is just put highways from at this point, like, Miss Love, you're right. We're going to have to drive from Uluru to Sydney to go to work.
I'm going to go to work and take
that's
me
the
3
end.
days. Yeah.
Because if you look at Sydney now, where is the immigrant population moving? They're moving towards the northwest of Sydney. So I know like more about Sydney than other cities, but like they're moving towards the northwest of Sydney.
Like Ryde.
Well, Ryde is very close. I'm talking about like Schofields. I'm talking about like
suburbs you don't know.
Suburbs that you don't know about. That's where like people that live in Sydney are living now. If you're an immigrant now, that's where you move.
And always something like Greendale, Green Square.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Green Blue.
Green.
Yeah.
Yeah, green.
Yeah.
And
How did we forget that?
And so the way that Liberal Party is dealing with that is they're putting in like high speed railways, which at the end of the day it's
Trams.
not a great quality of life, because even if you have like, first of all, I highly doubt that you'll have that Japanese level of efficiency in your train system.
Well, you'd think so.
But,
You'd hope
but again,
so.
like I think the presumption of whatever I'm arguing is that you don't move them into Sydney and Melbourne. You move them into areas that need them.
That's a good argument.
Like you go to like
Yeah, but that's
these-
what I'm saying. Like, change the constitution, force them to live there, and if they go out, taser them back in.
that's
That's what
one
you do.
way
You
of
just put
doing it.
giant electric
Harsh
fences
but
around
fair.
Dubbo. That's it. And it opens up once a day, and there's just all those Jurassic Park reptile guards just sitting there. It's just all these Indians trying to run up and like.
Hottest stream on Twitch. You don't get this on 4chan. Well, I've never been on 4chan.
So much content when that happens.
But dude, you gotta do it. If you want growth to work, you have to force people to live in regional centres, because those centres are dying, and I'm not moving there. Well, I did like Lithgow.
Which one of us is moving there?
I did
Because
it.
that's what's required right now.
I did it.
First of all, that's the only way for the Labour Party to also get into power.
Yeah, true. Exactly. That's the
So,
other thing.
in fact, this immigration policy, have you realized?
No,
it's
that's the
gonna
other thing. No, we're going to have to not bring back the wide Australia policy, but bring back a very select Australia policy if you want the Labor Party to come in. Because it just depends. Like, dude, like Vietnamese people, for instance, have you ever listened to their radio? I have, because my girlfriend's Vietnamese. This is basically the whole thing. Just like, Julia Gillard. Like, it's just like, they just shit on the Labor Party.
Yeah, because
Like,
Really?
non-stop.
Why?
In the newspaper and the radio.
Why?
It's
They
just like
love
this
the Libs.
very small community Alan Jones sitting there, I'm assuming with those circle glasses, smoking a lot of opium.
How the hell does that
It's the same reason why you hate the Soviet Union. They come from a communist country which was really poor, so they associate that
The
with.
same reason
So
why
yeah,
my
again, like if
folks-
you're
yeah.
fleeing from that country,
Then you automatically
you're going to be
associate-
voting for the Liberal
Yeah.
Party,
Dude, I think
right?
that's- I
But
think
if you like, if you escaped Chile under Pinochet,
Yeah.
you'll be voting.
But
for
you know,
the
this
Labor
is a-
Party.
Oh
I
yeah,
think-
you would hate the
But
Liberal.
I think this is a big
It's just like
proportion as to why a lot of immigrants in Australia vote for the Libs. I'd say across the board, because they're not escaping, New York City, the terrains of New York City to get to Australia. They're escaping usually tough situations with corrupt governments where they've been subjugated and had terrible lives. So they're just instinctively going to vote conservative. That's what my family have done.
But I think it's
Same
also
thing
like
with
a.
China. Most Chinese immigrants vote Liberal.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, look, Asians, they like the Liberal Party.
It's almost
They-
a strange dichotomy of like wires have been mixed. It's like there's. It's
But
like
Arabs-
nothing is universal.
Yeah, Arabs vote Labor.
so look,
Labor's
there's
figured
pros-
that out. They just
Labor
get Sam
wins the
Deschiar and he's
election.
just like, "Bruz, vote me in." And it's just like,
Yeah.
"Oi, Sam's running."
Fair
Like,
enough,
that's how it works.
fair
Labor
enough.
wins the so there's pros and cons. Like if there's a lot
So
of
that's what I'm
Arabs,
saying. Yeah,
you know-
you'd have to be like very select.
Yeah.
No, but you can't do that. Basically,
Exactly, you can't do it. So like, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
So like, it basically just goes down to like a population question. And so, look, unless you're going to be really unconstitutional about it and you are going to micromanage that immigration, it's just going to have the same impact that it has had before, which is just creating this huge pool of humanity in certain sects of the country that are just draining the resources of that state.
You know what my
Like,
fear is though,
What?
and so my fear is that if you don't talk about a big Australia policy and how that can be achieved, like the sort of conversation that we're having right now, because it is political kryptonite to talk about that, right? At the moment, for any
Yeah,
politician.
but I've gotta
However,
say, Christine Keneally took a bullet.
and
She opened it up. She's talking about it.
it's worth having a debate over. I'm not saying that you need to do it, but like at least talk,
Yeah, of
because
course,
the
everything should be
disadvantage of not doing it is that we eventually become a big Australia anyways,
Yeah,
because
that
that's where the pattern is,
That would
and
be
no one
scary.
talks about it, so you will have even more ghettoization
Yeah.
because there was never a formal policy around
But
it.
see, no, it's not about a dialogue because that's just what's going to happen. Like, I don't want a big Australia to happen, but it will happen because the Liberals could continue to be in power. They don't give a shit about building infrastructure to keep up with immigration. That's definitely not what's happening. Like, for instance, I remember reading this stat that, okay, even now, Daniel Andrews is building, I think, 300, or like something along the lines of like 200 new schools over the next 10 years. And everyone was saying, that's great. And it was an example of how immigration can keep up with infrastructure or whatever. But then someone did the numbers and realised, dude, at current rates, we need 330 schools. And then went back to Daniel Andrews and they just said, we don't have the budget for it.
Shit.
So even at this point, like it's just you can't keep up. Like it's there's too much back work that needs to have happened over the last 20 years from Howard doubling immigration and halving infrastructure spending. We need to catch up with the population that we have already, even to get to that space.
I think what will help is a consensus amongst the ruling establishment of this country. Some things like, there's a few points that there's bipartisan support for it. Having a big, like if you don't want to have a big Australia policy, that's fine too. I'm not forcing anyone to do it. I'm just saying it will be beneficial, and also you might end up there without even knowing. But anyways, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But if you want to do it, it can't be a partisan thing where like the Labour Party supports it and the Liberal Party doesn't. It needs to be a consensus amongst both big parties saying like, look, we're not gonna argue about this. Like arguably climate change should be the same, right? Like it is in Britain. Like we're not gonna argue about this aspect of it. We both recognize that this is how it needs to be done. Let's work with let's argue about like how we're gonna be able to achieve this. Without that sort of consensus, a plan should be aborted. Because it's only going to lead to problems.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the big ideas in politics, isn't it? And none of them, that never happens. Because again,
With
it's
some
about
things it
vested
can.
interest. But dude, again,
like with wars and shit, it always happens.
that's true actually, yeah. Okay, with cyber security and wars, that definitely happens.
Yeah.
And pokies. But when it comes to population, no, this is a money spinner for the Liberals' donors. So they're just always going to err on the side of, there's more room in Schofield, just chuck some more in there. That's going to be the policy.
I think a referendum wouldn't hurt on this particular topic. I think it's a good referendum to have. It's
what's the
actually a
referendum
question that
feel?
most Australians need to answer. It's a question that actually more than politicians, Australians need to answer.
Actually, guys at the Twitch, tell us, what do you think? Do you think you agree with a big Australia or a small Australia? I'd like to see a small sample.
Let's get some answers on that.
Dude, I
and
highly doubt
move
they're going to
on.
be big Australia.
No, let's put the question out there and move on because we haven't still answered one thing on here. And we're gonna
Mishlo's going to dance.
We're actually running out
No,
of time.
we're not. What do you think of Bob Katter? How can we topple the one of us mentality that continually gets him re-elected? Bob Katter's mad. Thoughts?
Sorry, just a question he asked, and we'll get to the first answer was small, second answer medium, third big.
All right, quick. We're zooming through these. Bob Katter.
Who needs a referendum?
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's crazy? Bob Katter's dad was a Labor politician.
Bob
No,
Katter.
that makes heaps of sense.
He basically is
Unions
Labour.
love Bob.
Yeah. So
unions are always
why is
funding Bob. They like him.
Someone's whinging about him. I think he's great. Well,
Yeah, why is everyone whinging about Bob?
someone
Because
said
he
how
has
do we-
probably some of the most socially conservative policies in the
Does
country.
he? Give me
You
a
know what,
rundown.
actually,
Give me a
dude, I
rundown.
like this, dude. There was this meme that Christo alerted my attention to. I can't remember. I'm not going to do it justice, but it was something along the lines of the Bob Katter Party, socialism with an outback aesthetic.
Yeah, but dude, that's mad. Why is this guy? So someone,
Wait, you guys
dude,
like
that
him?
speaks to Mislav. He should move into his electorate.
Yeah, bloody
And
oath
just
you
be like, do you know who Bob Katter is? Doing the calls on it. You do? Well, you have a good day, love.
yeah.
Doesn't he sleep with coal on his bed though?
Probably.
He's very
He's not perfect.
he believes
No, I would
climate
imagine
change is a
that he'd
hoax.
try and almost gas himself to sleep at night, being like, it's cheaper than sleeping pills. I think he's really into natural gas.
Wait, what
right,
are the
natural
good bits about Bob Katter? Because I always assumed he was a bad guy.
wants to-
He's really
Nationalising
pro. Yeah, he's really into nationalizing industry. He's really pro.
Nationalizing industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I need to look into
he's,
this.
he's really into nationalizing electricity. Was always pro nationalizing the mines in Australia. He really understands all of those points.
Dude, what is wrong with this? This guy is mad.
He understands that the only way to solve climate change is for Queensland to grow more sugar.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's like, ethanol's the way to go. Is
that true?
Yeah. It's just like,
That true?
Yeah, it is. Definitely. It's so good.
And for
what
that-
do you think? It's E10 at the petrol pump.
Dude, he is not much.
We don't need a big Australia. We just need slaves for our sugar.
I know.
So what is
I
even
know.
bad about him? Not super onto not strong enough on environmental issues. Is that
I
it?
don't know. I just
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He just doesn't. Because he's a man with a cowboy hat
yeah.
in Parliament.
probably hates
I'm pretty sure he
immigrants
doesn't give a shit about the environment.
Okay, Bob
he hates
Katter's
immigrants
mad.
too, right?
Huh?
He hates immigrants.
Yeah,
Is that it?
I think he does.
No.
Oh, maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
No. He's actually suggesting what I was kind of half joke suggesting.
I've just been like,
taser-
Of just being like, bring in a specific sect of Lebanese Christians, not those Lebanese Christians, though. The ones that wear a lot of gold. Get
yeah,
them.
it's like we have to have similar values.
Yeah, not enough Muslims. By the way, like this is just for all those guys that are just because Lebanese Christians are not Muslims, they are much closer to Muslim Lebanese than they are to you. Trust me. Like, dude, you go into like a Lebanese or Syrian church, a church with Jesus on it, and you will hear things like Allahu Akbar because that's what they call God.
Yeah, but that's obviously I get that.
Yeah, but like it would freak out someone who's like, wait, this is not what
this isn't right.
You would have
Mine's
said
Zero Dark 30.
Mishnah would say Takiya in action.
All right, Bobcat is mad. Go vote for him. What pandemic plague are you looking forward to next? Killer bees? A wave of hypnotoads? I'm personally looking forward to like zombies. That'd be fun. Then I can finally shoot some people. What do you think?
You know, I like the idea of it, and I think that there's actually some merit to this. The rise of the giant squid.
Oh shit! I would like that.
Wait, what do you mean
Like
there's
a
some merit?
bondage?
Merit to it.
You're gonna have to talk me through that one.
Where do you
I don't know
want it
what
to
else you
appear?
want me to say on this, mister. This giant squid.
Fact.
They're coming.
Factotum. Nothing to move on from that.
All right. In climate change, there's certain winners and losers, and winners are the big squid.
And
The
lobsters.
big squids, they're like moving slightly up because they used to just be in the twilight zone. But every now and then, Japanese vessels now, it is just like the beginning of one of those 2010 action films that's just based on like like Pacific Rim or something like that.
Yeah.
There's just like all these things of just like, and in Japan, a giant squid went to the surface, and you'll have just all these Japanese guys being like, oh no.
Yeah.
Going like, going back down.
Well, but wait a sec,
So the Kraken is coming.
don't we all win then? It comes to the top. We got food for weeks.
Yeah.
In a weird
That's
way.
what I thought. Too.
No, but I think, they need to definitely resurface because, dude, so good. When giant squid get the bends, I'm pretty sure they just go and go inside out.
Oh!
They must be an alien species.
They
And they
must
must just be sitting around at the bottom of the ocean now, just being like, the time of the squid is soon.
I'm keen. I changed my mind to that one. What's
Dude, what are the odds that if you actually open up that squid, Elon Musk is sitting there with like a
Nintendo 64?
That's what I mean. He's gonna be the villain. He's gonna be the giant squid.
Dude, but how good would it be if he's playing Nintendo 64 and he's like, I like playing with, super fast.
And then just Joe Rogan sitting
Why
in
else
the
would
back.
I
This
call
is
my
crazy,
daughter?
man.
Yes, Joe
This is
Rogan's like,
crazy.
dude, you killed me again. Oh, fuck. Thoughts on how
Close that fucking hatch, Jamie.
Thoughts on how Labor is usually empowered during crisis, how this is one of the only crises where Liberal has been empowered both federally and state in New South Wales.
Because it's a cabal. This is what I'm always saying when people always say like, oh, so you support Chinese dictatorship? Yes. Straight up, yes.
Because
it's a sham.
Yeah.
Democracy doesn't exist. Like the reason that Labor gets in power is because the ruling elite allows Labor to get in power. It's exactly the same thing with the last election of the Liberals. The Liberals didn't want to win the last election. They booby-trapped the budget. All of them had all these cushy consultancy jobs lined up, and they still won.
That's
They were actively trying to lose, and
Unbelievable.
they still won.
That was unbelievable.
That is
How
unbelievable.
good is Australia? How good is Australia? And
Is that the
How good are banks? How good are
banks?
bankers?
So it was Banks and Murdoch. That was it that got him in?
I think it was the franking credits.
Franking credits. George Frank Costanza franking credits. What was it?
Yes, it was mostly Murdoch that wanted that one to go. I think that obviously the Business Council would prefer the Liberals to go in. They weren't pushing them as hard as they were, say, in 2013.
Yeah.
The Minerals Council obviously would have packed behind that, but really the big factors in that election were Rupert Murdoch and Clive Palmer. And now Clive Palmer, and this is the scary thing, and I want people to, if anybody has any information on this, I need to start looking into it. Clive Palmer is a fatty McFuckhead.
Yeah, he's
And
running
he is-
again.
dude, he's
Available
a fucking fatty
on
McFuck running
Friendlyjordies
again.
website.
No. He's
available.
figured out that he can just be the Koch brothers of Australia.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
So he is just setting up a bunch of think tanks now. That's what he's spending his money on.
Shit, it was always going to happen. I'm surprised he didn't do it sooner. I mean, that would have been smarter.
Yeah,
than money.
how dumb is that guy
I
that
like
he
how-
first thought he was going to be the prime minister and that's how he's going to make more money? He's like, oh, hold
With
on.
this,
This
yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So stupid, but also it's just so scary as well that he's just obviously realised that the Australian Taxpayer Alliance is in Australia now. Just been like, hold on, the Koch brothers are here. No, we're not having some oligarchic billionaire with a chokehold on the democracy. We're going to have an oligarchic billionaire with a chokehold on the democracy that's Aussie.
Yeah.
That's his
I'll back
mentality.
That. It's better than your American one, but like, yeah, that is brutal. So he's just going to up it now. And there's just going to be more and more of those institutions that are sort of like the free, tax-free, libertarian, freedom-loving free boys. That kind of shit.
No, I think it'll just be like the chicken schnitzel thought group.
Which gravy's better, pepper or regular?
Yeah, I know.
I say pepper.
Make Ting Tans come up with a quadruple chop.
Before you dig into any other segments, I just want to say you got 3 minutes.
We're probably good, unless you
Well,
guys.
look, all I'll be saying is that the reason that Australia, during the 80s, during the neoliberal reform, is because they understood that the Labor Party is actually, this is the thing that is insane about it. This is what people don't understand about the Liberals and Labor. It's like the Liberal Party, there's no ideology here, right? It's just the Liberal Party are intentionally incompetent. I mean, the fact that they just had a $60 billion loophole. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Did you hear about that?
Crazy.
Is insanity.
I didn't know
Where
that.
is it? Page 4 of the Telegraph, just as a little just quick little accounting
No, but like to be fair, like, look, maybe I don't have all the information, but it seemed like a muck up. Like they just
but they shouldn't be giving it. They are the Treasury. You shouldn't have a $60 billion muck up.
That's a lot of money.
John Howard, when he came up with a budget black hole under Keating, when he was the opposition leader back in the 80s, that sunk his career for 9 years.
But it was so idiotic too. It's like if you have a company that has one person that you can't pay, but you expect for them to get like 1,200 a week or whatever the amount is.
Yeah.
The government assumed that you had 1,200 people working for you, as opposed to one person getting 1,000. So that's the level of
Dude, that is
So, like-
incompetence like embodied.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, it's almost a lovable.
Look at him, he's in pain.
He's literally-
No, it's just, dude, like, yeah, I understand that it's a cartoon, but then you just remember every time, like, no, this is real life. This is just Mayor Quimby running the country.
We
Yes.
are all, like,
And
as
you're,
the Prime Minister said, and your grandma says we should respect him. He said, we are in uncharted territories, and there will be muck-ups, but we've got to deal with it.
But you know, if Labor did it, it'd be
He's
like
going to kill me.
if Labor.
No, well, dude, Kevin Rudd posted the comparison.
Yeah.
When he forced the banks to pay $733 million in insurance to their own customers during the global financial crisis. Front page for weeks. Kevin Rudd's $733 million bailout. There is a $60 billion accounting error. I can't, I don't know how to emphasize this, but I wish that I could emphasize this point.
I didn't
more,
even
but
know
I
that.
don't know if you can.
There's another
know it
point,
happened.
like,
I didn't even know it happened
You didn't
until
know it
I
happened.
didn't know.
Yeah, these two are uncomparable because, to be fair to Kevin Rudd, when he came out with that strategy, it was rare. Like, no one was doing it. And the reason why Scott Morrison found the political capital to easily do it is with Kevin Rudd's experience, we know it works. And I'm telling, and Kevin Rudd was actually pretty good with this because no other country did it the way he did it. And it was an example for the world. Most economists, like you could listen to like lectures in the US about like how they dealt with 2008. Kevin Rudd's name comes up often. They say, well, in Australia, they just gave $1,000 to every individual. It seems obvious to us now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't this obvious. They didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's why the US kept giving it to the banks. And now even Trump did the same thing. Trump
Really?
is no lefty, but he has given money. He's did what.
Wow, I didn't think he would.
So like, Scott Morrison had the privilege of hindsight.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that
Yeah,
clear.
he had the privilege of hindsight and he still fucked it up.
And yeah,
That's the difference, right? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
this is what people need to understand about it. I really want to start honing this point. It's just like the Labor Party is a government. The whole point of the Liberal Party is that they're incompetent boobs. Like, they are put in because it usually suits the oligarchs to have a government that, even if it had the will to keep them in check, are too stupid to do it. That's what they want. They want idiots like Scott Morrison running the country because they know that they can outsmart them and run circles around them anyway. But when you have, but there is certain points in history, like your World War IIs, your complete realignment of the Australian economy throughout the 80s, where you have to actually have a government there to guide the society, basically for them in the long run. So that's why they're usually there.
And after that point of yours, Miss Love, who do you think you're going to vote for in the next elections? It's got to be blue, isn't it?
Dude,
Yeah.
I have to tell
Family
you,
first.
I'll give you
I'm guessing a resurgence.
followed swiftly by the weed party and no post-meter parties. No,
What
dude.
a weird vote. 1, family first. 2, weed party.
Look, I'll just give you a brief history of my
You got to
voting.
end it too.
Yeah.
Yours last
Well,
statement.
Yeah, my
Miss
last
Love.
statement is I'll just give you a super brief history of my voting history. It has been, and it's not that long. It's been, I went through the typical stage of 18, 19, being like, yeah, peace, man, the Greens, dude. Like, come on, their name's the Greens. You didn't really see an alternative. And then like got over that, and then steady amount of voting for the weed party and any other hilarious parties that were on there. Just like anything that made me laugh, I was like, yep, winner. But the last 2 to 3, the last few elections that I can even remember, and I mean, if I wasn't at this point by now hanging out, I mean, even not even just hanging out with this guy for the amount of time I do, it's like I'd be a total douche if I wasn't voting Labor. And like after 4 years of being like, look, God damn it, it's worked. So Labor.
And there you go. Even Miss Love is now
I know,
aware
finally
of what-
came
I've been
around.
all around the libertarian, commie. I've done it all, folks.
So you can too. Vote Labor next election.
And you can give us money on Patreon.
Oh yeah, give us money on Patreon, and if not Patreon, then
and
become a
sub.
subscriber.
We want to get our
Page.
subs up, peeps.
Either
Boons,
way,
boons,
yeah.
boons,
Thank you
boons.
for all those
To
people.
quote
I've
a
got to
basically
give a shout
defunct
out
media
to.
outlet, help fight the info war.
That's right.
By giving Mishlove money so he can buy possibly 2 beanies.
We over the course of this podcast, I think we gained. If I might be wrong, but I think we gained about like 20.
That's
new
right.
subscribers.
Oh, ain't you sweet?
So
Very
appreciate
sweet. I
that.
think all you have to do is
Come
say
on, Miss
sub.
Love, do a little happy dance for them to sign them out. Thanks, guys. Come on, as if the subs didn't go up by 500.
Okay.
Okay, just keep going, Miss Love. We're doing this all night if we have to.
No, just keep dancing.
All right, I think we get it. We get it. Miss Love has one dance move.
Okay, so are we still on air?